The envelope should not have existed. 50 years it had waited, pressed flat between a metal cabinet and a crumbling post office wall. Its edges yellowed like autumn leaves, its corners soft with age. Dust covered it like a burial shroud. And yet when Eli Turner pulled it free on that ordinary Tuesday morning, 3 weeks before his retirement, the faint ghost of perfume still clung to the paper. Roses. Old roses. The kind his mother used to wear. He stood there in the sorting room, alone, holding something that time had forgotten. The handwriting on the front was elegant, careful. The ink faded but still readable. No stamp, no postmark, just a name and an address written in a steady hand that suggested hope or perhaps desperation. Lena Turner, 428 Riverside Road. Eli's breath caught in his throat. That was his mother's name, his mother's old address, the house where he grew up. For 37 years, Eli had walked the same postal route, through the same small town, delivering letters that connected lives, carried news, sparked joy or sorrow. He prided himself on precision, on duty, on making sure every piece of mail found its home. He was the kind of man who believed in rules, in order, in the simple dignity of a job done right. His colleagues joked that he was married to the mail. They were not entirely wrong. After his wife left him 12 years ago, the only constant in his life was the weight of the mailbag on his shoulder and the rhythm of his footsteps on familiar sidewalks. But this letter was different. The postmark should have been there, but it was not. Someone had written this letter, brought it to the post office, and then, what? It had fallen, been forgotten, hidden? Eli turned the envelope over carefully. The seal was still intact. Whoever sent it never knew it did not arrive, and whoever was meant to receive it never knew it existed. His hands trembled slightly as he slipped the letter into his jacket pocket. He should log it, follow protocol, file a report. But something deeper than duty whispered to him, this was meant to be delivered. Even now, even 50 years too late. He would find out who sent it. He would complete this delivery. He had no idea that the truth inside that envelope would destroy everything he thought he knew about his own life.
Eli did not sleep that night. The envelope sat on his kitchen table under the yellow glow of a single lamp, untouched, unopened, but impossible to ignore. He circled it like a man approaching a cliff edge, drawn forward by something he could not name. Curiosity, yes, but deeper than that, a pull, a need. The return address, when he finally examined it closely with his reading glasses, was barely legible. Water damage or time had smudged the ink, but he could make out fragments. J. O'Donnell, 15, Oak Creek. Oak Creek. There was a neighborhood by that name on the east side of town, but most of those houses have been torn down in the 80s to make way for a shopping center. Still, archives existed, records. Someone would remember. The next morning, Eli called in sick for the first time in 17 years. His supervisor sounded genuinely concerned, but Eli barely registered the conversation. He was already pulling out phone books, searching online databases, writing down names. The town library became a second home. The records clerk, a young woman named Beth with bright, curious eyes, helped him navigate microfilm machines and property records. At first, she treated it like a charming puzzle. An old postman trying to solve a mystery. Romantic, even. This is like something from a movie, she said, smiling as she pulled up census records from 1973. Eli forced a smile but said nothing. It did not feel like a movie. It felt like standing on the edge of something dark and deep. He found 3 families with the last name O'Donnell who had lived in Oak Creek during the 70s. 2 had moved away, 1 had died. He tracked down a phone number for a woman in her 80s, Margaret O'Donnell, who lived in a nursing home 2 towns over. When he called, her voice was thin and uncertain, but she remembered. James O'Donnell? Yes, that was my brother. He passed away in 1975. Car accident, terrible thing, she paused. Why are you asking about Jimmy? Eli's throat tightened. I found a letter he wrote. I wanted to make sure it was delivered. There was a long silence on the other end. Then quietly, who is it to? Eli said, a woman named Lena Turner. Another silence, heavier this time. I see, Margaret finally said, her voice careful, guarded. I did not know he knew anyone by that name. But something in her tone told Eli she was lying. He pressed gently. Did your brother ever mention her? Was there someone special in his life? My brother kept his personal life private, Margaret said, and her voice had turned cold. If there is nothing else, I have to go. She hung up before Eli could respond. He sat in his car outside the library, staring at his phone, heart pounding. The pieces were not fitting together the way he expected. This was not just a forgotten love letter. There was something hidden here, something people did not want found. That night, he opened his mother's old photo albums. She was 82 now, living in a care facility across town, her memory fading gently into fog. He visited her twice a week, brought her flowers, sat with her while she watched television, and forgot his name. He flipped through images of her younger self. Lena in the 60s, laughing. Lena in the 70s holding a baby. Him. Lena standing beside his father, Harold Turner, a tall, stern man who worked at the factory and died when Eli was 19. But as Eli looked closer, something felt off. In the photos before his birth, his mother looked different, thinner, sadder. And in one photo, taken in what must have been 1972 or 1973, she stood alone in front of a small house, her hand resting on her belly, her eyes distant and full of something Eli could not name. Grief? Fear? Regret? He turned the photo over on the back in Eli's mother's handwriting before everything changed. Eli's hands began to shake.
Eli did not go to work the next day either. He sat in his living room, the letter still sealed, the truth pressing against him like a weight on his chest. He knew he should open it. He knew he had to, but once he did, something would change, something permanent, and he was not sure he was ready. The name kept circling in his mind, James O'Donnell. He had never heard his mother mention that name, not once. And his father, Harold Turner, had been a quiet, private man who rarely spoke about the past. Eli had assumed it was just his nature, but now he wondered if silence had been a choice, a shield. By noon, Eli could not stand it anymore. He drove to the care facility where his mother lived. Sunridge Senior Living was a clean, pleasant place with wide windows and nurses who smiled too much. His mother had a room on the second floor with a view of a small garden. When he arrived, she was sitting in her chair, staring at the television with the sound off. "Mom," he said gently, kneeling beside her. She turned slowly, her eyes vague and distant. "Hello," she said politely as if greeting a stranger. "It's me, Eli, your son." "Oh, yes," she smiled, but there was no recognition in it. He had lost her piece by piece over the past 3 years. Dementia had taken her memories, her words, her sense of time. Some days she knew him, most days she did not. Today was one of the lost days. He pulled the envelope from his jacket and held it up carefully. "Mom, do you remember this? A letter from a long time ago, from someone named James O'Donnell." Her expression did not change at first, but then slowly something flickered behind her eyes. A shadow, a ghost. "James," she whispered. Eli's heart stopped. "You remember him?" She blinked, her gaze drifting away again. He had kind eyes. "Who was he, Mom? Who was James O'Donnell?" But the moment was already gone. She looked back at the television, humming softly to herself, lost again. Eli sat there for an hour, trying to pull her back, but she had drifted too far. When he finally left, the letter felt heavier than ever. That night, he did something he had never done. He went to his father's grave. Harold Turner was buried in Greenfield Cemetery, beneath a simple stone that read, "Husband, father, hard worker." Eli had visited maybe a dozen times since the funeral 28 years ago. He had never felt particularly close to his father. Harold had been distant, strict, a man who showed love through provision rather than affection. Eli stood over the grave, hands in his pockets, and tried to remember his father's face. But all he could see were fragments, a frown, a jawed set, the smell of cigarettes and motor oil. "Did you know?" he asked the stone quietly. "Did you know about the letter?" The wind rustled the trees, but the dead offered no answers. When Eli returned home, he made a decision. He sat down at his kitchen table, took a deep breath, and carefully opened the envelope. The letter inside was written on thin, delicate paper. The handwriting matched the envelope, elegant and careful. It was dated March 14th, 1973. Eli would have been born in late 1973, which meant his mother had been pregnant when this letter was written. His hands shook as he began to read. "My dearest Lena, I'm writing this knowing I may never see you again. The company is transferring me to Seattle, and though I asked them to let me stay, they refused. I have no choice. I have to go. But I need you to know the truth before I leave. I love you. I know those words cannot fix what is broken. I know you have a husband. I know you have a life you must return to, but I need you to hear this from me in my own hand, so you will always know. The months we spent together were the only real months of my life. When your husband was missing, when everyone thought he was gone, I did not step into your life to take advantage of your grief. I stepped in because I could not stand to see you suffer alone. And then, God help me, I fell in love. I fell in love with your laugh, with the way you sang while cooking, with your strength even when you were breaking. I fell in love with the life we built in those stolen months. And I fell in love with the future we imagined. But he came back. Harold came back, and I understand why you chose him. He is your husband. He was there first. And I am just the man who loved you in the space between. But Lena, there is something you need to know. Something I cannot leave unsaid. I hope our child grows up knowing the love we never got to share. I hope he or she grows strong and kind the way you are. I hope one day, when the time is right, you tell them the truth.
not to hurt anyone, not to destroy what you have built, that because truth, even when it is painful, is better than living a lie. I will always love you, Lena. Always. Yours, James. Eli read the letter 3 times. Then he read it again. And then he let it fall from his hands onto the table and sat in the silence of his kitchen, his world collapsing. I hope our child grows up knowing the love we never got to share. Our child. The words burned. Eli stood slowly, mechanically, and walked to the bathroom. He stared at his reflection in the mirror. Brown eyes, dark hair, now streaked with gray, a narrow face. He had always been told he looked like his mother, but now he tried to remember his father's face. Harold Turner. Tall, broad-shouldered, blue eyes, blonde hair that had gone silver early. Nothing like Eli. He had never questioned it before. People took after different parents. Genetics were complicated. But now the differences felt glaring, obvious, intentional. Eli's breath came in short, sharp bursts. He gripped the edge of the sink, his knuckles white. His father, Harold, had he known? Had he raised Eli knowing he was not his biological son? Or had he been lied to as well? And his mother, his sweet, gentle mother, the woman who baked him cookies after school and sang him lullabies, she had lied. For his entire life, she had lied. The betrayal hit him like a physical blow. Eli stumbled back into the kitchen, grabbed his keys, and drove. He did not know where he was going until he was already there. His mother's old house, the one on Riverside Road. It had been sold years ago, after she moved into the care facility, but Eli parked across the street and stared at it. This was where it happened, where James O'Donnell loved his mother, where the lie began. A woman stepped out onto the porch, the current owner, holding a baby. She waved politely at Eli, assuming he was just another driver passing through. He did not wave back. He sat there until the sun went down, trying to piece together a life he thought he knew. Everything felt false now. Every memory tainted, every moment rewritten. Who was he?
Eli stopped going to work. He called his supervisor and said he needed time, family emergency, medical leave. He did not care what they called it. He just needed the world to stop spinning long enough for him to breathe. For 3 days, he barely left his apartment. He read the letter over and over until he could recite it from memory. He searched for photos of James O'Donnell online, but found nothing. The man was a ghost, a shadow, a name on a piece of paper. But the words haunted Eli. I hope our child grows up knowing the love we never got to share. Eli had grown up knowing only one kind of love, the practical, distant kind. Harold Turner had provided. He had worked long hours at the factory. He had put food on the table and kept the house in order. But he had never been warm, never affectionate. Eli could not remember his father ever hugging him, not once. He had assumed that was just who Harold was, a product of his generation, a stoic man who believed love was shown through sacrifice, not softness. But now, a darker possibility formed in Eli's mind. What if Harold had known? What if he had raised Eli knowing he was not his biological son, and that knowledge had poisoned any chance of real connection? Or worse, what if Harold had never known? What if he had loved Lena, trusted her completely, and died believing Eli was his? Both possibilities felt like betrayal. Eli thought about his childhood, the silence at the dinner table, the way his father looked at him sometimes not with anger, but with something else, distance, maybe even sadness. There had been one moment, just one, when Eli was 16. He had been accepted into a college program for creative writing. He had been so excited. He had shown his father the acceptance letter, waiting for pride, for acknowledgement. Harold had read it slowly, then handed it back. "You are good with words," he said quietly. "You get that from your mother." At the time, Eli had taken it as a compliment, but now those words felt heavy with meaning. "You get that from your mother, not from me." Eli paced his apartment, anger and confusion tangling inside him. He wanted to scream. He wanted to confront someone. But who? His father was dead. His mother did not remember. And James O'Donnell? He had been gone for 50 years. Eli was alone with the truth no one else could confirm. On the 4th day, he received a phone call from the care facility. His mother had fallen, nothing serious, just a stumble, but they wanted him to know. He should visit. She had been asking for someone named James. Eli's blood ran cold. He drove to Sunridge that afternoon, his hands gripping the steering wheel so hard they ached. When he arrived, his mother was sitting in her chair, a small bandage on her forehead. "Mom," he said, kneeling beside her. She looked at him, and for a moment her eyes cleared. Just a moment. "Eli," she whispered. Relief flooded through him. "Yes, it's me." She reached out and touched his face with trembling fingers. "You look so much like him." Eli froze. "Like who, Mom?" Her eyes filled with tears. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I am so sorry." And then, just like that, she was gone again. Her eyes went vague. She pulled her hand back and stared at the television. Eli sat there, shaking, tears burning his eyes. She knew. Even now, lost in the fog of her fading mind, some part of her knew, and she was sorry.
Eli waited 2 weeks before going back. He needed time to breathe, to think, to decide whether knowing the whole truth would make things better or worse. But in the end, he had no choice. The not knowing was worse than anything the truth could hold. He returned to Sunridge on a Thursday morning. The nurse at the desk smiled at him warmly. "She's having a good day today," she said, very alert. Eli's stomach twisted. When he entered her room, his mother was sitting by the window, looking out at the garden. She turned when she heard him, and her face lit up with recognition. "Eli," she said, smiling, "I was hoping you would come." He sat down across from her, his hands folded tightly in his lap. "Hi, Mom." They talked about small things for a while. The weather, the food at the facility, a bird she had seen that morning. Eli let her talk, waiting for the right moment, knowing it might not come. Finally, he reached into his jacket and pulled out the letter. "Mom," he said quietly, "I need to ask you something." She looked at the envelope and her smile faded. Her hands began to tremble. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "I found it at the post office. It was never delivered." Lena's eyes filled with tears. She reached for the letter and Eli handed it to her. She held it like something sacred, something lost. "I thought he never wrote back," she said softly. "I thought he forgot about me." "Mom," Eli's voice cracked. "I need to know the truth. Was James O'Donnell? Was he my father?" Lena looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, slowly, she nodded. "Yes." The word hung in the air like a blade. Eli's chest tightened. Did Dad? Did Harold? No? Lena's face crumpled. No, he never knew. When he came back from the war, everyone thought he had died. We had a memorial service. I mourned him, and then James came into my life. He was kind, he was patient. He helped me survive the darkest time of my life. She paused, wiping her eyes with shaking hands. And then Harold came home, alive. He had been held as a prisoner. He escaped. He came back to me. And I had to choose. "So you lied," Eli said hard. "I protected you," Lena said, her voice breaking. "I protected all of us. Harold loved you. He raised you. He provided for you. He was your father in every way that mattered. Except the truth," Eli said bitterly. Lena reached for his hand, but he pulled away. "Eli, please, I did the best I could. It was a different time. I could not destroy Harold's life. I could not shame James. I could not tear apart everything, so I buried it. I chose silence. I chose to let you grow up safe." "Safe?" Eli's voice rose. "I grew up not knowing who I was." "You grew up loved," Lena shouted back, her voice stronger than he had heard in years. "You grew up with a roof over your head and food on the table and parents who sacrificed everything for you. I will not apologize for that." Eli stared at her, his anger colliding with something else, something softer. She was right. He had been loved. In their own way, both Harold and Lena had loved him. It was not perfect, it was not honest, but it was real. Lena's voice dropped to a whisper. "I am sorry you found out this way. I wanted to tell you so many times, but the years passed and it felt like the truth would only hurt everyone, so I stayed silent. And I am sorry. I am so, so sorry." Eli sat there, his throat tight, his eyes burning. He looked at his mother, this small, frail woman who had carried the secret for over 50 years. She had protected him. She had sacrificed her own peace to give him stability. And now at the end of her life, the truth had finally surfaced. "Did you love him?" Eli asked quietly. "James?" Lena closed her eyes. "Yes, very much." "And Dad? Harold?" "Yes." In a different way, but yes. Eli nodded slowly. He did not have words, not yet, but something inside him was beginning to shift.
Eli did not go home that day. Instead, he drove. Miles and miles through towns he barely recognized, past fields and forests and highways that stretched into the horizon. He drove until the sunset and the stars came out, and still he kept driving. He was not running, he was thinking. His entire life had been built on a foundation he thought was solid, but now he understood the truth. That foundation had cracks. It always had, but it had held because the people who built it loved him enough to keep it standing. Harold Turner had raised a child that was not his blood, and whether he knew the truth or not, he had stayed. He had worked, he had provided. Maybe he was not warm, maybe he was distant, but he had been there. And Lena, she had made an impossible choice. She had chosen stability over honesty, security over truth, and she had carried the weight of that choice for 50 years. Eli thought about his own life, his failed marriage, his loneliness, his safe, predictable routines. He had spent so much time protecting himself from pain that he had forgotten how to live. And now, faced with the truth about his parents, he had a choice. He could hold on to anger. He could let resentment poison the little time he had left with his mother. He could hate the lie, or he could choose something harder: forgiveness. The next morning, Eli returned to Greenfield Cemetery. He stood over Harold Turner's grave for a long time, hands in his pockets, the wind cold against his face. "I do not know if you knew," Eli said quietly. "I do not know if you loved me because you thought I was yours, or if you loved me despite knowing I was not. But either way, thank you. Thank you for staying. Thank you for doing your best." He knelt down and placed his hand on the cold stone. "You were my father. In all the ways that mattered, you were my father." Tears came then, quiet and steady. Not tears of anger, tears of grief. Grief for the man who had carried a burden Eli would never fully understand. Grief for the relationship they never quite had, but also gratitude. Deep, aching gratitude. After a while, Eli stood and walked to a different part of the cemetery. He did not know where James O'Donnell was buried, but he spoke anyway, to the wind, to the trees, to the memory of a man he never knew. "You loved my mother, and maybe in another life, you would have been my father too. I will never know you, but I want you to know I turned out okay. I think you would have been proud." The wind picked up, rustling leaves across the grass, and Eli felt something loosen in his chest, something that had been tight for weeks. He drove back to Sunridge. His mother was awake, sitting in her chair, a blanket across her lap. When she saw him, she looked uncertain, almost afraid. Eli walked over and knelt beside her. He took her hand gently in his. "Mom," he said softly, "I forgive you." Lena's face crumpled. She squeezed his hand weakly, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Eli," he continued, his own voice breaking, "you did the best you could. You protected me. You gave me a life. You gave me love, and that is enough. That is more than enough." She sobbed quietly, and Eli pulled her into a gentle embrace, holding her the way he wished his father had held him, the way James O'Donnell might have held him, the way sons hold their mothers when words are not enough. "I love you, Mom," Eli whispered. "I love you too. I always have." They sat together for a long time, two people who had hurt each other without meaning to, finding their way back to grace. When Eli finally left that evening, he felt lighter than he had in years, not because the pain was gone, but because he had chosen not to carry it alone anymore. 3 months later, Eli returned to work. His colleagues welcomed him back with careful smiles and gentle questions. He told them he had needed time for family matters, and they did not press. The mail route felt familiar beneath his feet, the rhythm of delivery, the weight of the bag, the simple satisfaction of connecting people through paper and ink. But something had changed in Eli. He noticed things now, the way a letter could change a life, the way words carried across time and distance, bridging gaps between hearts. He handled each piece of mail with a new kind of reverence.
The undelivered letter, James O'Donnell's letter, sat framed now on Eli's bedside table. He had read it so many times that he knew every word, every loop of ink, every crease in the paper. It was not a curse anymore, it was a gift. One evening, Eli sat down at his kitchen table with a pen and a blank piece of paper. He began to write, "Dear Harold, I never called you Dad very often. I do not know why. Maybe I sensed something I could not name. Maybe you sensed it too. But I want you to know now, even though you were gone, that you were my father. You worked hard, you provided, you stayed, and I am grateful. I know now that love is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet. Sometimes it is sacrifice without recognition. Sometimes it is staying when leaving would be easier. Thank you for staying. Your son, Eli." He folded the letter carefully and placed it in an envelope. Then he wrote another letter. "Dear James, I never knew you, I never will, but I carry pieces of you in ways I am only beginning to understand. My mother loved you, and I believe you loved her too. Thank you for being kind to her when she needed it most. Thank you for the love you gave, even when it could not last. I wish I could have met you. I think we would have liked each other. With respect, Eli Turner." He tucked it into the frame beside the original, two halves of a story that finally felt complete. Eli began visiting his mother more often. Some days she knew him, some days she did not. But it did not matter anymore. He told her stories. He held her hand. He forgave her over and over again, every time her memory failed and she apologized for things she could not remember doing. "It's okay, Mom," he would say. "We're okay." And they were. One afternoon, as Eli walked his mail route, he delivered a letter to a young couple's house. The woman answered the door, beaming, holding an envelope with tears in her eyes. "It's from my grandmother," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "She passed away last month. I didn't think I would hear from her again, but she must have mailed this before. She couldn't finish, but Eli understood. "Words have power," he said gently, "even when the person who wrote them is gone." The woman nodded, clutching the letter to her chest. "Thank you," she whispered. Eli walked away, his heart full. That night, he sat on his porch and watched the sunset. He thought about truth, about lies, about the messy, complicated ways people love each other, about the choices his mother made, about the man who raised him and the man who gave him life. And he understood something profound. The truth does not always destroy. Sometimes it heals. Sometimes it sets you free. Eli closed his eyes and breathed deeply, feeling the weight he had carried for so long finally lift. He was not defined by secrets. He was not broken by lies. He was simply a man who had been loved imperfectly by imperfect people. And that was enough. In the end, Eli learned what so many of us forget, that forgiveness is not about pretending the hurt never happened. It's about choosing love anyway, that truth, no matter how painful, has the power to heal if we let it. And that family is not just about blood. It's about who stays, who sacrifices, who loves you, even when it's hard. Sometimes the letters we carry change our lives, and sometimes the greatest delivery we can make is forgiveness, to others and to ourselves.